Hello everyone. Today, I'm going to share a super creative idea to turn ordinary candles into something unique and practical. Instead of just using candles for lighting or creating ambience, I'll show you how to recycle old candles into a special type of wax with surprising abilities. It's all easy to make, super budget friendly, and only requires a few simple ingredients you probably already have at home. Get ready with an old candle and some used batteries. Let's spark some ideas and get started. Don't forget to drop a like and subscribe so you won't miss the next exciting DIY videos. First, I carefully cut the candle into small chunks to make it easier to melt later. Using a sharp knife, I slice it into even pieces, so the wax will melt more quickly and smoothly when heated. Next, I place the candle pieces into a pan and set over low heat to melt them down. I stir gently as the wax softens, letting it slowly turn into a smooth, liquid form without burning for the container. I take an empty can and carefully cut in half, then use the bottom part to hold the melted wax. I smooth out the edges to make sure there are no sharp parts, so it's safe to handle when pouring in the hot wax. I smooth the cut edges of the can to remove any sharp or rough spots. Then, I use pliers to bend the rim of the can inward, making sure the edge is tucked in. This helps eliminate any sharpness and prevents accidental cuts when handling the container later. Finally, I carefully pour the melted wax into the clean can. I do it slowly and steadily to avoid spills, letting the hot wax fill the container evenly and settle smoothly. I make sure to leave a little space at the top, so the wax doesn't overflow as it cools and hardens. I pour the wax while it's still hot and fully liquid. Next, I move on to checking the old batteries. I carefully inspect each one to make sure there's no leakage, rust, or damage before using them in the project. I then use a multimeter to check the voltage of each battery. Testing them one by one. The ones that show little to no charge are the ones I'll use for this project, making sure only fully drained batteries are selected for safety. Next, I carefully open the dead battery to access the powder inside. Wearing gloves and working in a well-ventilated area, I gently peel away the outer casing to reveal the inner material. making sure not to let the contents spill or scatter. I then transfer the black powder into a plastic cup, making sure to pour it slowly and carefully to avoid any spills. I use tweezers to pick out any large, lumpy pieces from the black powder. This helps separate the finer material, making it smoother and easier to work with for the next step. Once all the large pieces are removed, I quickly add the black powder into the melted wax while it's still hot. I stir the mixture continuously until the black powder is fully blended into the wax. The goal is to achieve a smooth, uniform consistency where the powder and wax are completely combined. I carefully touch the outside of the can and feel that it's still quite hot. So I set it aside for a while, letting it cool down gradually until it's safe to handle. Once the wax is completely cooled and hardened, the surface feels solid and smooth to the touch. It has a slightly glossy finish, and the black powder is evenly embedded, giving the wax a uniform, polished look. Next, to apply this wax mixture onto the surface, I prepare an applicator. It can be a small brush, a sponge, or even a piece of cloth. Anything that can spread the wax evenly and smoothly where it's needed. I take a piece of sponge and place the bottle cap on top. Using the cap as a guide, I trace a circle around it on the sponge, marking the area I'll use for applying the wax. And carefully cut along the circle I trace on the sponge. I go slowly to ensure the shape is as precise as possible, trimming any uneven edges so it sits perfectly inside the bottle cap. This way, the sponge can hold the wax firmly without slipping, making it easier to apply smoothly and evenly onto the surface. I then secure the sponge circle to the bottle cap using hot glue. I apply a thin layer of glue around the edge of the sponge and press it firmly onto the cap, making sure to attach tightly so it won't move while spreading the wax. With the sponge firmly fixed to the bottle cap, it becomes a handy applicator for the wax. You can easily scoop up the wax and spread it smoothly over any surface, making the whole process quick, precise, and mess-free. Plus, the edges of the can are no longer sharp, thanks to bending and smoothing earlier, so you can handle it safely while applying the wax. Next, I test the wax to see if it can work like shoe polish. The shoes I'm testing on are relatively new, with just a light layer of dust on the surface. They're not dirty at all because I regularly maintain them using this wax, which also provides a protective layer, keeping the surface safe and looking polished. I then take the sponge applicator with the wax and gently rub it onto the shoe surface. The wax spreads smoothly, covering every part evenly, and starts to give the shoe a subtle shine while reinforcing its protective layer. As I continue spreading the wax, the leather surface starts to look noticeably fresher. The light layer of wax enhances the color and texture, making the shoes appear almost like new while keeping them protected. Looking closely, the difference between the treated and untreated areas is clear. The section with wax is glossier, smoother, and has a richer color, while the untreated part still looks slightly dull and dusty. This shows how effectively the wax revives and protects the leather. Next, I'm going to try applying the wax to the shoe sole. I use a sponge applicator to spread it evenly across the bottom, checking how well the wax adheres and whether it can provide extra protection and grip. Next, I'll use some water to clearly show the difference. I sprinkle a little on both the waxed and unwaxed areas to see how the surfaces react. When I spray water onto the wax surface, the droplets bead up and roll off easily. The water doesn't soak in at all, showing that the wax creates a protective, water-resistant layer on the leather. On the unwaxed surface, the water soaks in almost immediately. The leather darkens slightly and looks damp, clearly showing that without the wax, it isn't protected from moisture. The way the water behaves is completely different between the two surfaces. On the waxed area, it beads up and slides off, while on the unwaxed part, it soaks in and spreads, clearly highlighting the protective effect of the wax. The wax layer forms a thin, even coating over the leather, acting like a shield. It repels dust and water, prevents minor scratches, and helps maintain the shoe's natural color and shine, keeping the surface smooth and well protected over time. Next, I'm going to try applying the wax on a tire. I use a sponge applicator to spread it evenly over the rubber surface, checking how well it coats and whether it can provide a protective and glossy finish. As I apply the wax to the tire surface, the black rubber instantly looks richer and deeper in color. The coating gives a fresh, almost like new appearance, enhancing the natural shine of the tire while adding a protective layer. Compared the unwaxed area, the treated tire looks noticeably darker, shinier, and cleaner. The untreated part appears dull and slightly faded, which makes the difference in appearance and protection very clear. When I spray water onto the tire, the wax surface repels the droplets, causing them to bead up and roll off. Meanwhile, the unwaxed area absorbs the water, making it look wet and less vibrant, clearly showing the protective effect of the wax. The wax forms a protective layer over the rubber, enhancing its color and giving it a glossy, well-maintained look. It also helps repel water, dust, and dirt, prevents minor cracking or fading, and keeps the surface supple and longer lasting. In conclusion, this homemade wax proves to be versatile and effective. It not only restores and enhances the appearance of leather shoes and rubber tires, but also provides a protective barrier against water, dust, and wear. It's easy to make, cost-effective, and turns ordinary materials like old candles and used batteries into a practical, everyday solution for maintenance and care. By recycling old candles and drained batteries, you can create a protective wax that restores shine, repels water, and preserves surfaces like leather and rubber.